Hi, my name is Ross Crane. I'm your host and narrator for a series of very short slideshows to illustrate the use of integrated petrophysics and why you might want to consider it now in your organization. This lecture covers a little bit about the why and a very tiny bit about why now and a little bit about how you might be able to do it. So take a look at the next 3 or 4 slides and see if you agree with me that integrated petrophysics might be helpful in your organization. I've been giving these lectures for a long time, actually, quite a number of years, and I've used this slide quite often to suggest that we are dealing with a science, just like geophysics and geology and engineering. Petrophysics is its own science and has its own background and its own customs and math and all that. The first line on this slide suggests that science helps us understand what's going on. It keeps us from telling lies to each other. It keeps us from waving our arms and suggesting things which we can't demonstrate. The second line on the slide also suggests that if we don't understand what's going on around us, either the science or the world or whatever, it looks like magic. We don't know how log analysis works, so it's just arm waving or magic. Well, that's not really the case. Petrophysics, as I say, is a science. We know what we're doing when we've learned enough about the theory and practice of the science. So I'd like to suggest that petrophysics is really the backbone or the core discipline that affects every other discipline in the oil and gas industry, including economics, the bottom line, and things that make the world go around. I've also used this slide quite often in my presentations, and the concept being that the cheapest oil you'll ever find, or gas, is already in your well files. You've drilled a lot of wells. You've probably gone after a particular target, not necessarily the only target. And of course, that gets lost in the dust as the producing well is making you money, and finally gets to the point where maybe it's not making so much money. Maybe there's other targets. Maybe you never completed this well because it just wasn't good enough for the ego of the industry at that time. Today, we'll take oil from anywhere if we have the chance. So take a good look at what's already in your files. Now, in many jurisdictions, a lot of data is available that isn't even in your files, but in government files, which is data that you can use. The second thing that I'd like to mention, I haven't talked about it much in the past because we didn't use the word big data before, but Amazon and Google and many others have taught us how to use big data. It's a great marketing tool, but it's also a great research tool. Now, the oil and gas industry and the mineral industry has big data. We have some of the biggest, most massive data files in the world. They include our well logs, which we're going to talk about, but it includes many, many other things. Production histories, the drilling records, the sample descriptions, numerous, more than numerous, many, many reports and laboratory investigations are done on individual oil wells. It sums up to an awful lot of data. So let's use it. Let's look through it and let's see what we can find in it. These lectures will cover a little bit of that task. because we're going to do what's called integrated petrophysics. We're not just going to look at the logs. We're going to look at the logs and all the other data that might be available on this project. You might be wondering, why do we care now about doing all this extra work to find oil? Well, the reason is it's cheaper. What our problem is in the oil industry today is we need cheaper oil, especially in Europe and North America, possibly other parts of the world. The price of oil is not that great right now, and it never will be possibly in the future, because we're doing our damnedest to get rid of oil. Well, it's not going away forever, and it's not going away completely, ever. So we need oil for any number of tasks, plastics, lubricants, you name it, well beyond the need for fuels. And let's face it, we live in a climate, at least in the middle to northern North America, the average temperature is only about 3 degrees Celsius. We're not going to do that heating of houses, heating of buildings with electricity completely. We're going to need oil and gas for many, many, many years into the future. So why do you care? Well, you could be in the forefront of finding that relatively cheap oil in your own backyard. So let's try and do that. Your next logical question, of course, is how do we do it? Well, there's a couple of things that are required, of course. One is a corporate buy-in to the whole concept of establishing a small group, or a single person even, who can chase down all the data that belongs to a project area that you might be involved in or willing to participate in. That small group is going to be very multidisciplined. A single person possibly doesn't have all of the qualifications you need, but they could learn the necessary scientific parts of the business and how to manage the data that comes with those different disciplines. I did it. I spent, 60 years of my life looking. Well, that's the end of our slideshow introducing integrated petrophysics, but several things you might want to think about is, are you now using all the data you have appropriately in your exploitation work? If not, why not? If not, what can you do about it? You might want to consider all that big data sitting out there, and if it's not being used, you're wasting the money that you spend on that data. And if it's data that's available from governments or data providers, that's another source of possibilities for you to investigate an area without a lot of exploration money going out on the ground before you know what you're looking for. As you know, most companies have chief executive officers, chief financial officers, chief operating officers. You might want to consider a chief data officer. Maybe not at the same level as the ones I've just mentioned, but somebody in the exploration area who's in charge of all the data, knows where and how to file it, knows how to get it back when you need it in your current project. So think about how you're doing it now, think about how you can do it better, and then think about how integrated petrophysics really forces you into thinking and doing what's needed to get all that data in one place and useful.